Welcome back to the show, and a very good one, I hope. A very good morning to you. Assalamu alaikum to all our viewers. I'm glad to have you on today to be able to entice you into better spaces and places through the relevant topics that we're going to be discussing today. One very touchy one. Let me introduce you to my guest. Her name is Nazia Iram Osman, and she's a clinical psychologist interested in mindfulness-based intervention, focusing on depression, anxiety, and trauma. And also, of course, giving a lot of advice pertaining to pertinent topics where she helps people actually find themselves. And of course, not by, one thing I like about her, she's not a judgmental person. So she looks at the situation in a neutral way and then, of course, helps you get through that situation. Today, we're going to be discussing, should we say, I'm going to say it. It's a topic that people don't want to touch on in a hurry because it is a very sensitive topic, but we thought we will deal with it. And Nazia is going to talk to us this morning about, of course, getting divorced and what it means, or should we consider that if we are having situations. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very warm welcome to you this morning, Nazia.
Wa alaikum salam, Nafisa. It's such a pleasure to be back on the show. And salam alaikum to all the listeners and viewers.
It's such a pleasure having you on the show. And I'm so glad that you took the time out to be able to discuss, should we say, a topic that is becoming very common nowadays in society. Being a clinical psychologist, I gave a breakdown of what it is that you do. I thought it was imperative that we discuss this topic because it's something relative to, should we say, many people in many communities. It's not just affecting our community as such. It's something that is happening throughout communities. And, our grandparents always say things have changed from when they were around to now. But I think we also need to understand, sometimes in life, things happen due to reasons. So let's talk about this topic. But before we go into it, I'm not going to encourage anybody to get divorced. Let's put it that way. I think we first need to tap into the idea of the ideology of how do we first try and determine that is this something that needs to be done or can it be saved?
Right. So I just want to go back a second. I like the words that you started off with about leaving your legacy behind. And I think it's important when we're doing a touchy topic to set an intent. And I think let's use your words. So how about we set the intent? It's about leaving your legacy behind by choosing to be the best version of yourself in a very difficult situation. So today talking, I would like to go forward saying it is a difficult situation. No one is encouraging anyone to go as divorce as the first option. But how do we maintain our dignity and be respectful and fair while doing it? So I think I'm just saying it out there. Let's go with that as the intent.
Yes, and let's talk about also, the important things to look at before we even
jump to that point
about that option. I think we need to weigh in on it. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. So, personally, whether it's the fact being a Muslim first and all the rest after, as a therapist, I would never, ever encourage divorce. Unless, of course, your life is in danger. But even in that, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful and so wise in the way He has put steps in place, like separate the bed, separate the household. There are steps to be taken. And so I also go with a similar sort of ethos. We don't judge and we don't jump to it as the first conclusion. But when we are thinking about divorce, the big things that we have to look at is it's such a huge adjustment to be able to separate the lives that we've set for each other, the roles that we've set up, and we look at splitting of assets, relocation of residence, and the custody of children. And children is the one thing that makes this so complicated. But let's look at whether the marriage is even worth saving and should divorce even be seen as an option. Look, no matter, some people say, oh, if he had an affair, or she had this, she did this, I won't be able to do the marriage. I won't be able to, go through with it. But there's no such. Whatever the situation, if the couple, both of them, are willing to put the work in, they're willing to see what caused this in the first place, because normally there's a rift, and then other stuff starts seeping in. If both
I
are willing
agree
to
with you.
manage,
It's like it's finding the root of the problem, and understanding the stem of it, and where, you actually went off the beaten track in that particular relationship. And I think
Right.
that's where you're going to start understanding, of course, how to find ways to try and mend it before you can even consider that. And I think those are the types of things we need to start looking at.
I mean, communication. Number one,
Mm,
whenever we do any sort of relationship counseling, we look at how are you guys communicating. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Are you respectful? Are you dignified? Are you attacking? We use a few tricks, like always use I statements. Let the person how you know how you're feeling about things before you put the finger out there and blame them. So communication is key. Look, respect and trust is big. Love itself is just not enough. Feelings are important though. Like if you're feeling disgust towards your partner, and that's a word I often hear, then I'm
mm,
very concerned, because if you're feeling
mhm,
disgust or indifference, it means
mm,
the feelings are actually ebbing away. If you can't
mm,
envision yourself with this person, like you just cannot see yourself with this person, it's already telling that, you know, these are not good signs that the marriage,
mm.
it sounds probably that the marriage isn't going to work. So that's a few signs we look out for.
Yeah. So
Before we move
also
further.
another
Yeah.
thing is, speaking to many people on a general consensus, you find in many instances that the problem isn't with the couple themselves, but there's always that outside interference in that
Right.
marriage. And I think this has become a norm in society, which I don't think is acceptable. I think the respect line needs to be drawn somewhere. A lot of people have that habit to create an outside interference to come into a marriage and create friction between the couple. And that has
Right.
happened many a times in many a different instances with many people that you speak to on a general consensus.
Right. So, I mean, look, I think, especially initially when the couple is just trying to find their feet, adjusting to coming out of their old ways or their old, families of origin and setting up this new, that's when we usually see a lot of what I call boundary crossings, where the family of origin doesn't know where to draw the line. Or the couple, one of them is sharing a lot more information than they should. So, learning how to become their own couple and drawing the boundaries is really so important. Also, look, every couple comes with their own ideas and
Mm,
values and ways of being. So I call it they come with their own luggage. So it's
mm,
important to unpack that luggage together and say, what are your expectations? What are my expectations? How much of a role will my mom play? How much am I going to share? Also, there's a thing called the exit, which means every
mm,
time there's a fight, if you're running away to your mom's house or he's going and calling a friend, you're using these people as your exits. And those exits are very
mm.
dangerous. I mean, a
Exactly.
healthy support is different from an exit, Nafisa. it's
Right.
yeah,
So this is what I was trying to say with outside interference is to I think for the couple themselves to understand the differences. And as you were saying, going to go and tell maybe someone in the family, this is what he or she is doing. I think it creates a lot more of a worse situation than what there was initially, because it kind of escalates the situation where people take it totally out of bounds. So
absolutely.
let's talk about also on that type of a topic, when one decides that eventually, okay, it's not just only that, there's a lot more to it than that. How
Right,
does one, if you decide now, okay, no, this is just not going to happen, there's no way to sort it out amicably, we are on totally different levels, how
right,
would you go about, say for example, you have to live in the home with your children till, of course, you go through all the necessary, what sort
right.
of advice would you give people? Because inevitably, what's going to happen is there's going to be that friction, and the kids in turn are going to get affected by it.
Right. So, look, it is important that once you make up your mind that you are going to get divorced, it doesn't have to be a full on war zone. It is not a competition. There doesn't have to be we're a winner. There doesn't have to be a loser, right? Always
Mm,
try to remember that, especially if there are children involved, the dynamic of the relationship change, but you always will be partners, due to having this common having keeping the best interest of children at heart. Now, just say you have to stay with the person and it takes a bit of time before you leave the home. Now, that becomes very, very difficult. I think first acknowledging that we are in a difficult situation, it is only going to be for a certain period of time,
mm,
trying to be that best version of yourself. Do not have real conversations or big conversations when you are emotionally dysregulated, because you're just going to be disrespectful and it's going to end up to be so much worse. Keep it very,
And I
very
agree
simple.
with you there, because then what happens
Yeah,
is the kids are in the situation there too. And
right,
how do we help them? Of course, they're involved in it. It becomes very traumatic for them. So I think there
right,
has to be that some form of civilness, in order for the kids to understand that maybe there's a little bit of a difference between the parents, and it's
right,
something that can't be worked on, unfortunately. And this is, this is the advice I think you should give parents: is how do they treat it with living in that type of environment while their kids are around them? Because as we know, for the kids alone, it's something they don't understand, and it becomes very traumatic for them, because they're used to having both parents, and then suddenly there's this whole situation that has changed so instantly, where in a bit of time both parents are not going to be with them.
right. So remember, if couples have a choice, they are divorcing each other. They got into this marriage, they chose it, now they are choosing to separate. Children don't have that choice. On the other side, parents are divorcing. They're not divorcing their children. So to get the children to choose sides, to be rude to each other in front of the children, that puts the child into a very, very uncomfortable position, because they feel the urge to choose sides. They feel the urge to spy on each other. They feel the urge to be able to make things better for mommy or daddy. They
Hmm.
feel that they can't come up with their own emotions because there's too much happening in this space. So we should model what we want for our children. If you are
Hmm.
screaming and insulting your partner, guess what behavior your child is learning? If you
Hmm.
are unable to contain your own emotions and you crying all over the place, get the help. I'm not saying we're judging you, but go to the therapist or go to another family member. Don't make your child that sounding board, because it's not their age, neither is it their role to be able to contain that for you. So the more we can handle our own emotions, that's what we're teaching our child. If we can handle it and we're saying it's okay, then we can be there for them. Listen to what they are going through. It's a huge adjustment for children to be able
For
to
sure.
now see that the home that they're used to is going to be very different.
Hmm.
So just be able to hear them out, allow them the emotions. They will act up, they will get angry, they will at times be quite disrespectful, and you have to be able to draw the lines there and say, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you, but you can't talk to me like that. But if you're
Hmm.
using the child against each other, then your child will not just you won't just lose respect for the partner, they'll lose respect for you as well. Well, that's
Hmm.
something to be quite cautious about.
Would you say it's imperative that the entire family goes for therapy prior to, of course, that separation taking place, so that the children also kind of deal with that separation in a different manner, as opposed to, like what you were saying, there's boundaries to be drawn. But I think if the therapy is done prior to the time, there's a better understanding of the type of situation, and of course, the outcomes will be different, and the way they look at the situation will also be different.
Right. So I think, look, the mindset. This mindset that no matter what's going on, you value the child's interests first. You
Mm-mm.
prioritize that, no matter what you're going through. That kind of mindset makes for the fact that sometimes you might not even need therapy, as long as the child feels loved and valued, and that you're putting their interests first. But of course, therapy would help the process. So sometimes it would be that one partner is finding it harder than the other partner, then that person would come in. Family therapy would be great, to see how everyone is doing. Sometimes the child coming in on their own, any one of that could be fine. I think the best one would be if the family comes in, preparing the child, helping them adjust, getting tips from the therapist, even how to deal with them. That would be the best way going forward. But we can
And
intervene
from
at any spot, individual, child, or family.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a very difficult thing to go through, I would say, for an individual and from a family as such, because they used to be one unit,
Right.
working in unison. Although we also have our individual things that we do. Um,
Right.
what would you say? What would you tell a person that? I mean, obviously, one's going through this. One needs healing. One needs therapy. One needs direction,
Right.
because it kind of throws you off your bar, because you're used to a type of a lifestyle and a type of should we say, environment that you live in, and then suddenly that environment has changed completely, and you're finding, I think a lot of times when I look at people that are going through those situations, in some way you think they lost.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, there hasn't been, and I'm saying this with the utmost respect, I don't see it that way, but there hasn't been a person in either one of the couple, male or female, that hasn't said, I feel like I failed. It is
Mm,
such a common sentiment. It really is so difficult to adjust to. They feel so down about it, even if they had, years waiting for this to happen. Those are some very common emotions that come in. There's anxiety, there's sadness, there's depression. It's a mourning period. It's grief because all
mm,
those dreams that you built together. So you have to be very patient and give yourself time, even if you knew this was coming. Give
mm,
yourself time to mourn the loss of this relationship. So the normal grieving stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression,
mm,
and acceptance. You're going to go through all of those. If he
mm,
was this, this wouldn't have happened. If he had done it in another way, if she was this, blaming each other, even that's normal. But try to see the bigger picture that, it was meant to be together for this period of time. I did the best that I could with that knowledge and information or emotional state that I was in. So just be very, very patient with yourself. Stop the fighting because I've noticed, when we have couples coming in, they're taping me, they
mm,
tape each other, they getting the kids into what feels like a proper brawl, a proper
mm,
fist fight, and it
mm,
doesn't have to be that way. It's just making things so much worse. In fact, I know this is a very odd thing to say, but aim for indifference, which means
mm,
from love you're probably going to go to hate, but overall aim for the fact that this is just someone else that was in my
mm,
life and is not anymore. So you're kind of taking away that emotional hook that they may have in you. So
mm.
overall, we're aiming for, indifference, not hate,
I
if
agree
that
with
makes
you
sense.
because what
Yeah.
that's going to do is, of course, change that entire mindset of the person, and they're going to have a better focus and a better, should we say, approach to the
Yeah.
situation. Where that when they do get to meet each other for the sake of the children, there's going to be a more civil, amicable way of dealing with things. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure
And
you'd
I think,
agree
look,
with me.
even the triggers, watch out for your own triggers that maybe seeing this person gets you into an upset state. Be aware of that and say, okay, what else can I do? How do I reframe it? Instead of seeing him as my ex who let me down, because that's going to bring in anger, see him
Mm,
as we've opened up, we're in the same business, we've opened up a different branch. We're in the business of
mm,
taking care of our kids. So reframe it. Even as annoying as this person may be, it's just for a period of time. So almost
mm,
talk yourself into being different and handling the emotions that come in with seeing, this ex who now has a different relationship with you.
mm. I love your ideologies, and I think people that are going through this have definitely got to come and see you because I think your ideology is so deep, but yet so practical.
Yeah.
Nazia, how do people that are going through this type of situation get to see you, get a hold of you? Give us all your contact details, just for the should we say the benefit of the viewers, if they feel they would like to, of course, pursue this discussion with you, and if they're going through this type of situation.
Okay, sure. So, Jazakallah so much for been having me. But my contact numbers, I am based in Durban Central, so I have two practices there. You're welcome to get a hold of me and on my landline, which is 031 564 6501, or on WhatsApp, which is 083
Mm-hmm.
786 3437. Or you're welcome to just go onto the website where all the information, the contacts, everything is there. Is
Mm-hmm.
kznpsychologist.co.za. So that's pretty simple. kznpsychologist.co.za. Or even on
And a quick
Instagram. You can
and
just
a
get a hold of me
question.
there. Yeah.
I know you're all the way in Durban, and maybe there's people from other walks of, from maybe Johannesburg or Cape Town that would like to get in touch with you. Do you do virtual sessions?
So, if there is no psychopathology, which means there is no psychosis, depression, then we can do online sessions. But if it's family sessions, I prefer if you go to someone closer to your area because to do an online with multiple people, it's very hard to do justice online. So if it's an individual, there's no psychosis, then we can do it online.
Hmm.
If there's family intervention needed, I'd suggest they go in face to face to someone in their area because it,
Okay.
it works, yeah, to contain multiple people online. You can't do it a lot of justice.
Now, I agree with you. I kind of see
Yeah.
your vision. Yeah, it's a one-on-one would be better because you can get more insight into the situation. And I appreciate that
Right,
you brought that up. Um,
right,
what message would you like to leave us with today with regard to this topic?
right. So, maybe this is more for the lawyers, but aim for mediation, not litigation. aim for mediation, aim for the middle ground. Look at this as a partnership that has changed its course. If
Mm-hmm.
there are children involved, please, please, please prioritize their needs. And I think your line, the one that we started off with, was very nice. Leave your legacy behind by choosing to be the best version of yourself and be the best version in a very difficult situation. So aim to be that best version, even though
Jazakallah.
we know it's a difficult situation.
It is. It most definitely is. But I want to thank you so much for shedding some good light on this type of situation that people are experiencing, and I'm sure many can take back a lot of valuable. Should we say words that you've left with us and food for thought. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out for us, and trying to, of course, help those going through a situation like this to be able to relate to what we discussed this morning, and take something back and try and better the way they deal with the situation. So Jazakallah so much. I'm
Jazakallah for
hoping
having
that
me,
we can
Nafisa.
tap into you again real soon. But all the
Inshallah.
best and do take care. Assalamu alaikum wa
Walaikum
rahmatullahi wa
salam.
barakatuh. Sister Nazia Osman giving us the take, of course, on how to deal with divorce. And it's sad, but it is a reality. It's becoming a very common thing in society at the moment. And I think we need to review that and see how we can deal with it in a better way. And I think that was what Nazia was saying, is having to leave our legacy behind and look at ourselves and say, how can we change things? But unfortunately, sometimes these things cannot carry on further. So we have to deal with it in our own way. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back with you.